I'm Stephanie Wilson, and you're listening to Freedom Over Fascism. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the pod. This is a different kind of episode. This is an audio version of my newsletter on what's come to be known as Signalgate. Like many of you, I opened up my newsletters yesterday to see the article by Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. In it, he describes how the top echelon, the principals of the national security apparatus, were planning an airstrike on Yemen against the Houthi group. Holy shitballs, I thought. These clowns will be exposed now, but I was wrong. Not that they aren't clowns. They are. Not that they weren't exposed. They were. But that this would be considered a fuck-up of epic proportions and somebody's head might roll. At least a low-level administrative assistant who managed to add Jeffrey Goldberg to the Signal chat, though maybe that's the point and maybe why he was included in the first place. To my horror, I realized that this text conversation, which included the National Security Advisor, Vice President, Secretary of State, Director of National Security, Secretary of the Treasury, Director of the CIA, Secretary of Defense, wasn't just an oopsie that a journalist happened to catch. It's standard operating procedure. Senator Jon Ossoff questioned CIA Director Ratcliffe, who kept insisting that nothing was classified. Obviously, this is a total lie, but again, that's not the point. And Jeffrey Goldberg has published the entire text stream, so we now know that this was a total lie. But that's not the point. The point of using a commercial, non-secure app on non-secure phones to plan a military operation that Trump probably didn't know about is the fact that those messages disappear after a week or 4. The point here is that this administration is doing all or most of its top secret business on this app, open for all the intelligence agencies in the world to see and for the U.S. government not to have a copy for the archives. My Inside the Beltway source texted me, LOL, hilarious, amateurs. But see, I don't think this was amateur hour. I think this is how they share our plans with the Russians and Chinese. I think this is how they keep their records from being recorded in the National Archives. I think this is how they make all sorts of high-level decisions that Trump may or may not know about. And that's far more sinister than a bunch of clowns not using their SCIFs, their secure facilities, for communications. It's a bunch of traitors using their unsecure phones and a commercial app in order to broadcast our plans and keep them from going on the official record, which could be classified for years if necessary. It's good to see some signs of alertness from Senate Democrats here, and maybe this treasonous behavior will wake them from their torpor. Those of us here in the grassroots want our elected leaders to show more fight. That's why AOC and Bernie are getting the crowds at their anti-oligarchy tour. That's why Schumer is being reviled for his invertebrate behavior. This, my friends, is the core of the administration. I'm actually kind of bummed that Jeffrey Goldberg took himself off the list. This was way too professional of him. He said that there was even more to the story, and he published that today. Someone in this opposition we need to be building, and perhaps part of the national security apparatus that hasn't turned treasonist, if they, God willing, exist, needs to be hacking those conversations just like our adversaries are. I'm willing to bet that'll be an easier way to learn what's going on than lackluster business-as-usual reporting by the legacy media and Herculean effort by the independent media to keep track of this regime's crimes. At the same time, Trump ordered more force reduction in the Social Security Administration. Think you can't get anyone on the phone now? They can cut benefits, they can not renew benefits, and they cannot add people to the list, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. In other news, they've given up $500 billion in revenue by gutting the IRS and virtually encouraging people not to send in their taxes. So to sum up, here are my educated guesses. This is standard operating procedure, meant to keep shenanigans secret from the U.S. government. This kind of communication excludes Trump, who is a happy warrior golfing and destroying the federal government, Social Security, the IRS, Medicare, cancer research, and other health research, universities, etc. There are many, many signal groups that the people doing the actual work of destruction and treason are using to signal our activities to our adversaries and make life or death decisions every minute of every day. This is the plan. These clowns aren't nearly as amateur as we think they are. They're doing a fairly successful job tearing down this country from the inside and the outside, making us weak at home, taking away our mutual aid, and reducing our power in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if VP, not Vance, but Vladimir Putin, is on some of these chats. So while this is an opportunity to galvanize those of us who love this country, it's not a fuck up, and there's so much more we don't know than we've so far discovered. Also, Jon Ossoff is freaking amazing, and nobody will convince me otherwise. Also, AOC, Crockett, Pritzker, maybe Pete, and a few others are using their spines. I hope 3.5% of our population shows up on April 5th to protest what's going on. To be clear, all of this is speculation. I don't have any information that you don't. Keep fighting, my friends. Thank you for listening to Freedom Over Fascism. Please leave a rating or review wherever you listen. And if you can, please subscribe at www.freedomoverfascism.us.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group.